Moment of silence, please. About ourselves, alcoholism, AA, and even you, God. We ask for an open mind so that we can have a new experience. Help us to see the truth. Amen. This comes from the foreword to the first edition of the Big Book. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person, and besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. I'm Charlie Parker. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. Hi, everybody. Here's a few things about online etiquette. Please keep your audio turned off unless you're speaking to the whole group so we can cut down on background noise. When sharing or making an announcement, we ask that you turn on your video so we can see your beautiful face. However, it's not a requirement. If you feel uncomfortable showing your face online, we'll still allow you to share. The recording feature has been turned off to honor our principle of anonymity. Welcome to the online version of the regular Tuesday night open Big Book study meeting of the primary purpose group of Alcoholics Anonymous in Austin, Texas. This is an open meeting, and as such, all who have an interest in alcoholism and our program of recovery are welcome. Because this is an open meeting, you don't have to identify yourself or your reason for being here if you don't wish to do so. Your anonymity will be protected. We ask that you protect ours. While this is an open meeting, membership in AA is limited to those who have a serious drinking problem and have a desire to stop drinking for good. We're going to pass the basket. Ashley, do you or Chad want to do that? Go ahead.
Our seventh tradition states that each group ought to be fully self-supporting through our own contributions. If this is your first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, we ask that you be our guest. We're glad you're here and hope you come back and become a part of our lives. On the other hand, if this is a regular meeting for you and you can handle a couple of bucks, it really helps out as we only meet once a week. We're doing donations through Venmo. Ashley's got it posted up here on the screen. You just hit the menu button on the top left, select search people, and its primary purpose @GroupAustin. @GroupAustin is one word. That's the key thing you got to get in. Announcements, we do a weekly email. If you'd like to get on the list to receive that email, go to austinppg.org, austinppg.org, and contact the webmaster through the link at the bottom of the page. It's actually at the top of the page now. And if for some reason if you've already done that a couple of times and you're still not getting the email, we only send one a week, and it usually comes on Tuesday. But if you're still not getting it, send me an email at this email address right here, and we'll make sure that you get on the list. Another announcement: we have a foundation meeting. In our regular meeting, we used to, before the pandemic, we would pull out people and do a foundation meeting. But we have a recording of it on the website, austinppg.org. If you're new to AA or our group and have not attended this meeting, we highly encourage you to check it out. It's a great introduction to what Alcoholics Anonymous and our group is all about: freedom from alcoholism through the application and practice of the 12 steps as they were given us. So I encourage everybody to check that out. Go to austinppg.org and just follow the links to foundation meeting. We've got a group conscience coming up. It'll be the second Tuesday of October for the locals. Any more announcements? Okay, Charlie, you want me to keep going with the sponsors? You want to do that?
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Somebody tonight, let's see how many people we have on here. 337 people, that's pretty good. So out of 337 people, I'm betting that somebody tonight's looking for a sponsor. So if you came here tonight without a sponsor, there's no reason to leave without a sponsor. It doesn't cost a dime, and it's a big part of what we do to stay sober. If there's anyone tonight looking for a sponsor, reach out by email. Use my email address right here. Don't put it in the chat, because in the chat box it kind of scrolls through quickly. We get a lot of chats and we might miss it. But if you'll send me an email, I will get on those tomorrow, and I'll make sure you get hooked up with a sponsor. And that's not necessarily just for new people. If there's somebody out there, we've been setting a lot of people up that have been around AA for a while, either with a sponsor or maybe just with someone to take them through the steps out of the big book. If you're somebody out there who's been in AA for a while, maybe you have a sponsor, maybe you're in touch with a sponsor and helping others, but you're interested in going through the steps straight out of the big book the way we talk about in here, then send me an email. We'll get you set up with somebody that can help you do that. Okay, we're on tradition 4. So it says, before we begin our study of the big book, we'll review tradition 4. Steve's going to read that. We get Steve unmuted. This is on page 562 in the 4th edition of the big book, and Steve's going to read the long form and the short form.
Thanks, Chad. My name is Stephen. I'm an alcoholic. Our 4th tradition states that each group should be autonomous except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. Our AA experience has taught us that, with respect to its own affairs, each AA group should be responsible to no other authority than its own conscience. But when its plans concern the welfare of neighboring groups also, those groups ought to be consulted. And no group, regional committee, or individual should ever take any action that might greatly affect AA as a whole without conferring with the trustees of the General Service Board. On such issues, our common welfare is paramount. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. In the spirit of the 12 traditions, our group conscience is elected to use a Big Book study guide to help us stay focused on our study of the AA Big Book. There are one or more questions for darn near every sentence in the basic text. The chairperson will read a question, and a member, Chad, will read the related sentence. It's okay to comment more than once in here, but please stay focused on the text at hand. This is not a general discussion meeting, so please keep your comments to the text being studied. Here's the one thing that's different about this Big Book study meeting than a lot of Big Book study meetings is, rather than share our experience with this part of the book that we're reading, we try to talk about what message were the founders trying to put forward, what are they talking about, why are they talking about it now, and really study the way the text is rolling out. If comments begin to drift off track, the chairperson will redirect the discussion. Okay, how to share. Select participants at the bottom of the screen, select more, and then select raise your hand. Ashley will tell Chad, Chad will call on you, and then we'll share it. Now, we got a lot of people here tonight, so we probably won't get to everybody before the meeting is over, but we are very much looking forward to hearing from you. Lastly, Ashley and Chad both have 1936 Webster's dictionaries. If you want to see what a word means or what it meant at the time they were writing the Big Book, just call it out and we'll look it up. Okay, tonight we are in the doctor's opinion in the 4th edition, it's Roman numeral XXVII, Roman numeral 27. And we're in the second letter from Dr. Silkworth, written on our behalf, and it's about to really get terrific. This next page, the second paragraph we're going to read tonight, is one that needs to really be beat up in your Big Book. It's one that needs to be highlighted, underlined, border notes, thumbprints. So we're going to start off with 2 paragraphs, beginning with the last sentence on Roman numeral XXVII. Chad?
Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure. before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve.
Yes, sir. P13 in a study guide, Chad. Did Dr. Silkworth believe that hospitalization for the sick alcoholic is appropriate?
Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit.
We got some two-parters coming up. What did Silkworth believe to be the cause of the alcoholic's out of control drinking? Pause at allergy.
We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy.
Does this phenomenon exist with normal drinkers?
That the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker.
It says here powerless over the body due to the allergy is the first half of step 1. How much alcohol can a real alcoholic safely use?
These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. And once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, am I supposed to read that whole sentence, Charlie?
Go ahead.
Once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve.
What a power-packed paragraph. Let's do some comments on that one.
There we go. One of my very favorite people. All right, Chip.
Slow it down, Chip.
Hang on, Chip. I'm working on it, buddy.
Hi, I'm Chip. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Chip.
Of course we need to be detoxed, but the allergy it's a phenomenon, and later on it's going to say we'd like the effect produced by alcohol. I think it's like opened up a channel. It's our power source, and one of the real ways I understand the disease of alcoholism, it's a mystical lie. It's not true. It's not there. Real. It's not there. It's nothing, but it's a mystical nothing, and so it starts, it's characterized by like a God, like a thought, like awareness, like a consciousness, like a trust, like everything, And I when I started drinking, I started drinking alcoholically because it gave me something that I wanted. It gave me that ego. It's a spiritual malady. It's messing with identity. So it's telling me who and what I am, but I don't think so. And it's like I hit that alcohol when I was like 12. And it's like, man, I can do anything on this stuff, and because I didn't know why. It's because I could be anything on this stuff, but I need to maintain that connection to that fake higher power, and it's it's like grabbing the third rail and getting that power, and I can't let go because I'm grabbing onto it. It's like this is my power source that I got a hold of it. I gotta, and I can't let go. I switched to one when I was 14, so I wouldn't kill myself. It's dangerous to wake up a drunk when they're passed out because the allergy will hit them. They'll start drinking again. They might die from alcohol poisoning. And so the allergy is hard to understand, but an allergy is a good way to it's a phenomenon that I'm still trying to understand exactly what's going on there, but it is very dangerous for an alcoholic because once we start, I drank I didn't stop until I got thrown in jail or died, and I never died, but I got thrown in jail a few times and stuff, and that would stop me. But and sometimes if it's like, hey, we got a 6-pack, you want to drink some beer? It's like, no, that's not enough, so I'm not drinking. I'm going to set the allergy off. Early on, I could do that. Of course, when it progressed, I could not resist it no matter what. So, but the allergy it's a phenomenon. It's a physical craving. It's like once we take a drink, we want some more and more and more. And whenever I wouldn't stop until I passed out or I went to jail or something. Anyway, thanks for sharing.
Thanks, Chip. Now we got Ray. My unmute button is a little slow tonight. Oh, I just muted you. Hang on.
There we go. Thanks, Chad. I'm Ray Shepard. I'm a recovered alcoholic.
All right.
Oh, talk about controversy. Here we go. Back on page Roman numeral 26, it was the authors of the book that said that the doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. In this paragraph, as we read it, we often read it in terms of saying Silkworth says that we have an allergy to alcohol. What he's saying is that the action of alcohol is like a manifestation of an allergy. And the question we have to ask is, how does an allergy present itself? I'm not going to go into that. All I'm going to say is at that time, there was not much known about allergic reactions, but what they did know was that it was like a hypersensitivity response. You get bit by something, you have a small little reaction. You get bit by again, you get a larger reaction. And eventually you have an incredible reaction. It's just like the action of alcohol on us. We started off, many of us did not start drinking to oblivion. It took time. But I can remember reaching that point where I'd go and I think, I just need a half pint just to calm down. And by the time I had gone 3 blocks and I'd emptied the half pint, I thought, why in the hell didn't I buy more? And this was something that drove me. How is it, knowing I shouldn't do it, knowing if I keep doing it, I'm probably going to end up back in the ER, what the hell is it that keeps driving us? That's that hypersensitivity response. And so as Silkworth is going on here, he's saying that we alcoholics, we chronic alcoholics cannot safely use alcohol. Once we drink, it does something, and he said it's a phenomenon, I don't know, but something happens in the body that says you gotta have more. I liken it to an itch that we can't scratch. And the only thing that does it is alcohol. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. It's good stuff, man. Next up is Barry. There we go.
Hey, hello, I'm Barry. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Barry.
And good to be here, good to be sober. And yeah, I love what Ray was just talking about. Nowadays we would define an allergy as an immunoglobulin mediated hypersensitivity. But remember that back then, they didn't even have that term in medicine at that time. This idea that an alcoholic can't take one drink, the Emmanuel movement that started back in 1908 in Boston, they had already noticed that alcoholics, that they had already come up with the idea of, alcoholism is a 3-part disease. It's physical, mental, and spiritual. And they had already documented the effect of having even one drink and what it did to an alcoholic. This was something that the Emmanuel movement noted. This was something that Dr. Silkworth had noted. I mean, a lot of different people come up and had verified this. And, in my own personal case, Williamson County Sheriff's Department has documented on several times that I can't take even one drink. So we can have as many debates about terminology as we want, but this idea, that an alcoholic can't take one drink, that's one of the few things that we can also regard to the level of fact inside of this. When we're discussing how it is that they once born the habit found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence or reliance upon things human, once again, it was not new or novel in the idea of Alcoholics Anonymous that this was a 3-part illness and that it needed a spiritual solution. What Alcoholics Anonymous came up with was that the spiritual solution can be found one alcoholic working with another alcoholic. That was the part of the magic that AA found. Dr. Bob's nightmare of greatest importance was that I was speaking with someone who knew about alcoholism from firsthand experience rather than what they knew. That's the solution that we offer. In 1930, there was a man named Richard Peabody, and he'd worked as part of the Emmanuel movement, and he had published a book called The Common Sense of Drinking. And in that book, he even has the phrase that half measures were of no avail in dealing with this problem. You know, what happens with Alcoholics Anonymous is that we're not just taking a lot of things that people already knew about alcoholism, we're taking them and we're adding in a spiritual component based on altruism and of an alcoholic relating to another. That's the unique part that we're coming up with. That's the solution that was found here. I'm grateful to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Barry. Charlie, I saw your hand waving.
Thanks, Chad. A couple of things. I looked up phenomenon in the old dictionary, and the ones that seem to apply is it says something beyond ordinary conception, and it says some event of unique significance. And there's so much going on in this, and I hope you, Chad, I hope you'll talk about the person that wasn't able to find the allergy in the old dictionary. That's a great story. But this paragraph just builds and builds on itself. And he had written a paper a few years earlier where he put this theory forward. And it says, we believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that's what he's talking about in that paper, that the action of alcohol on who? On these chronic alcoholics. So we're not talking about, you know, weekend drinkers or, you know, 2 beers and oh dear, as we say. This is chronic alcoholics, you know, and a chronic disease is something that you can sometimes control, but it never goes away. And it says that it's the manifestation of an allergy. You know, an allergy is, like we said, just an abnormal physical reaction for our purposes here. And how does it manifest? Manifest just means the way something shows up. And the way it shows up, the way it presents itself, for us, is this craving. It says that this craving, it's a phenomenon, it is limited to this class of chronic alcoholic and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. It does not happen to my sister. You know, and it says, then it goes on to say, there are, you know, we believe strongly in turning statements in the big book into questions. So right off to the side of this, you know, because they're about to give us about 5 different things, and I say, are these true? Are these true for you? When you're trying to, the most powerful diagnosis you can give yourself about alcoholism is a self-diagnosis. It doesn't matter if we think you're alcoholic, but when you believe in your center of your being that you're alcoholic, this becomes a serious piece of business. And it asks us, you know, are these true for you? Have you formed the habit? Have you found that you cannot break it? Have you lost your self-confidence? Nobody shows up for AA on a winning streak. You know, by the time we come here, we've tried quitting drinking a time or two, you know, and it says, has anybody else been able to help you with it? Have you lost your reliance upon things human? And this one is a no-brainer. Have your problems piled up on you and become astonishingly difficult to solve? And the problem with that is from a whole bunch of us trying to solve all those little problems that have come up can drown out or blind us to what's really wrong. You know, well, we get here thinking, if I could just get my outer circumstances in order, then I'll be okay in here. What we find out in here in AA is that my outward conditions are always a manifestation of my inward condition. So I've talked too long, but it's a super powerful paragraph. Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, Charlie. That's good stuff.
I have 2 definitions if I can jump in.
Charlie, that reminds me of you breaking that paragraph down for me a long time ago. I got a little sentimental.
Oh, thanks, man. God bless you.
Go ahead, Ashley.
All right. Craving is the desire for something abnormal or excessive desire for something. And then we have manifestation. So the act of manifesting, display or disclosure, a public demonstration of power and purpose, and a spiritualism, a materialization. Sorry.
Thanks, Ashley. All right. Next up is Lynn.
Good evening. My name is Lynn and I am an alcoholic. Great meeting tonight. I would like to share with you about the word safely. There was this newcomer who was telling me that sometimes she can drink safely. And I would like to offer for your consideration that it's safe, not drink safely as in unpredictable. Maybe I told myself last Thursday I would have only 2 drinks and not go to the bar. And I had 2 drinks and didn't go to the bar. And yesterday I may have told myself I'm going to have 1 drink and stay home, but I got roaringly drunk and went to the bar. And I can tell you that Thursday morning and yesterday morning looked absolutely the same. So to me, that safely means it's like the Russian roulette. I may be able to have just 2, or I may be drunk. And I'll tell you what, if I still had money, I was not coming home. Or if you still had money, I was not coming home either. And that was unpredictable to me too. So thank you so much for listening.
That's good, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn. Good stuff. Okay. Raquel.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Raquel. I'm an alcoholic. And, I love the first paragraph, the one that says that an alcoholic ought to be freed from alcohol. And you know what? When we started reading this, it says that those who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe that the body is really sickened as well, If we leave this physical factor out, everything else is going to be incomplete. Everything else that I really want to do about this, all this moral psychology that we were talking about, is not going to have the effect that it needs to have. And I love because the line that used to talk about that this will explain things that I cannot otherwise account for, I cannot even understand. It tells me here, like when my problems pile up and then become astonishingly difficult to solve, how can that be, I don't like the word trigger, but how can I just would like to make me escape and say, oblivion is the only way out for me. I don't think I can deal with this anymore. But I do want to say something that, never safely use alcohol in any form at all. I found it to be of extreme importance. In any form at all means in any form at all, the way that I see it and the way that I see it here. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thanks, Raquel. Okay, next up we've got Denise from Atlanta. Go ahead, Denise.
Hi, everyone. My name is Denise, and I'm a grateful recovered alcoholic. And Rachel touched on something that I wanted to touch on also was what we were reading was of course, the alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving and might need that hospital stay. And so Bill is just reiterating what he talked about with what Raquel brought up too, that who suffer alcoholic torture must believe that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as the mind. And then it goes on in that same paragraph on my book, it's 22 because I have the shorter version, but that our bodies were sickened as well. And it goes on to say what Raquel was talking about too, this physical factor is incomplete unless we bring that to mind too. And having suffered that myself. But I like the way too that they're just reiterating this again straight out of the gate. And because if we don't get this stuff straightened out, then and then when we start talking about the allergy too, and then it all makes sense. Well, hopefully it will make sense. But again, I like the way that they're going to read, and they're going to be talking about this more as we go along too. If you get the mind, body, and spirit, and trying to get it all together here. But from how I understand this too, this is kind of like step 1 stuff. So, but anyway, good to be with you all tonight. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. I just found out something that's kind of cool to me that Myers, who is a big part of the primary purpose group in Dallas, which the group that inspired this group, is here with us tonight. I'm going to call on David, who's next here, and then I'm going to call on Myers. Hopefully he'll share something with us. Okay, David, wait a minute. I'm having a hard time unmuting you, David. There we go. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm David. I'm an alcoholic.
David,
When I came into AA, they asked me to find out if I was an alcoholic or not, and that I was going to come in. I was going to fall into certain categories of drinking, and they talked about this phenomenon of craving, and it only occurs in the average. It only happens with us alcoholics. And I had to look at my other drinkers around me, and my wife didn't have the same reaction to me, and I came to realize I had something that uniquely was within me as an alcoholic, and this phenomenon of craving. And she didn't have that. She had one or two, and she felt dizzy, and she just said, "I've had enough." So, many people like that had that same experience, and I'd like to point out that this talks about a progressive disease of the phenomenon of craving. It is still progressing within me, 41 years of sobriety, and they suggest that we stay away from the first drink one day at a time as a result of that fact, because I am more allergic to drink than I am 40 years ago. But thanks. Thank you, Myers. Hope to hear from you.
I'm trying to send Myers a text and tell him what page we're on. I could just say it. He got in a little late. Myers, we're on the top of Roman numeral 28. We read, "We believe," and so suggested a few years ago. I don't know if you've ever read that paragraph or not, but in case you haven't, you might want to study up on it for a minute. And we'll get right back to you. Okay, Jim. Uh-oh. Jim, you're going to have to raise your hand again. I hit lower hand. Wait a minute, I can find you. No, I can't. Jim, you're going to have to raise your hand again. I blew it. Instead of hitting mute, I hit lower.
Jim Wagner?
Yeah.
I got
Not even unmuting?
I already got him. Oh, no, wrong one.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jim. I'm an alcoholic. And I want to throw out a question here. He's talking about common characteristics of alcoholics. And we've read it. Once having formed a habit, found they cannot break it. Once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them. The question I have, a couple pages later, he's talking about the classification of alcoholics. And what strikes me is this one. Then there are types entirely normal in every respect, except for the effect alcohol has upon them. They are often able, intelligent, friendly people. Is that a contradiction? The reason I say that is working with other alcoholics, I've never met that classification of person once we finally start digging into what's going on with them. That they are actually entirely normal in every respect. The ones that I have had the opportunity to work with have lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them, and they become astonishingly difficult to solve. So I'll throw out that question to you.
Sometimes I think some of us might have had the doctor fooled. That's not an actual answer to your question. It's just a comment. All right, Myers. Wait. You're up. You're unmuted.
I'm in.
There he is.
Did it come back? All of a sudden, it just went black. I've never had so much trouble on a technical stuff as I have today. I was doing a traditions talk on another Zoom, and the host forgot to tell everybody that there was a password in order to get on. And so I'm ready to start, and they're nobody can get on. So they just canceled the whole thing. And so I ran over here just as fast as I could, like that. That rascal that was ahead of me that asked that question like that, the world is full of functioning alcoholics. And I mean, it's sort of an amazing thing. We don't know on a continuum from I just took my first drink over here to I'm brain dead on the other end of it. We don't know where you are on that. In treatment land, I've sponsored lots of guys who were in their 50s or 60s before the disease manifested to the point that they were falling apart. But they lived 20 or 30 years and drank every day, but it didn't manifest in weird situations and stuff. And so it's possible. That's the reason why it's so important. In the two different places that Bill brings out this what type are you? Are you the real alcoholic or the hard drinker or whatever? It's also amazingly important that we understand the nature of alcoholism so that we can help understand what's being said in our rooms. I guarantee you the moderate drinker is not going to share the same thing as the real alcoholic. But for the newcomer that doesn't understand the nature of alcoholism, this may be a major problem because he's going to hear a lot of things that are conflicting and confusing and this sort of stuff. This is one of my favorite parts of the book, and it was the big eye opener for me when I began to realize that there was a face to alcoholism, and you either had it or you didn't. But when you read through it like this, you could go, "That's me, that's me, that's me," and it was very freeing. I mean, people go, "You mean you were excited to find out you were an alcoholic?" Listen, guys, after 7 years of trying to deny that I was an alcoholic and to try to find a way out, I was ecstatic reading Silkworth's story. But I happened to be 7 years over the first time I read it because we didn't study it. And so that's the reason I'm such a huge fan of book studies and the kind of meetings that we're having tonight where we can talk about that stuff. Listen, thank you guys for having me tonight. It sure is a treat to be here, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.
Myers, it sure is good to see you, brother.
Thanks, Myers, and thanks for letting us put you on the spot like that. It's a big deal for us to get to see you coming from for those of you that don't know, the primary purpose group in Dallas has been there since what, 89? About 30 years or so. Oh, you can't talk. You've been muted. You can't unmute yourself.
That's not nice.
And now, yeah.
How about that? How about that? They started that group the year I sobered up in '88. They started that group, and they were using. We were originally using a study guide that was written by Joe and Charlie, or Joe McQueeney at Recovery Dynamics in Arkansas, and we used that for about 7 years. That study guide went up to chapter 7, working with others, and then stopped. And so Joe McQueeney was Cliff Bishop's sponsor, and Clifford said, "Hey, will you write the rest of it?" And Joe looked at him and went, "No, I won't. You do it if you want to do it. Just write your own." And so Clifford looked at me, and I said, "Don't look at me," because I just said, "I'll put it together. We'll proof it. We'll do what we can do like it, but I'm not going to write it." And then he said, "Well, I'll do it then." And he did. And then that's when we started using it. So it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago.
Nice. That's great. Well, we're sure glad you're here. So there's been a lot of good information shared on this paragraph and a lot of good history on it. Now, I tell you what, the last few meetings for me since we've gotten this thing going have really been, I feel like I'm going to class, and I'm getting a lot of emails from people that say they feel the same way, really like they've been in class like it's a graduate program or something. And I noticed that some of our regular folks that share, we got some teachers on the list usually, and you can tell, and I think those of us that are attracted to this meeting really appreciate that kind of thing. So I appreciate what you guys are bringing to just make some of this real simple for those of us that may be first getting into this. When there's two things that we look at that make an alcoholic. Now, a lot of us say there are three things: a physical aspect, a mental aspect, and a spiritual aspect. But the spiritual aspect is not exclusive to alcoholics. There are a lot of people that just aren't okay inside. So what we really look at that really defines an alcoholic is a physical aspect and a mental aspect. This physical allergy and this mental obsession. And in order to be an alcoholic, you've got to have both of these things. And so the physical allergy is what happens when I take a drink. It sets off a craving, and then I lose control over how much I drink. It doesn't matter how much I set out to drink, I lose control. Once like Mark would say, once I take the drink takes me. I no longer have control once I get a couple of drinks in me. I don't know what's going to happen next. That's the first problem. And there's a real simple solution to that. All you got to do is just quit drinking. That's it. Don't take the first drink, and then you'll be fine. But then there's another problem that comes up for the alcoholic, and I'm just going to say this one real quick because we're not to this part of the book yet. But that one is the one that guarantees that I can't quit drinking, not for good. I can quit maybe for a little while, but I can't quit for good. And I'll pick up another drink, and then it sets off that craving like we're talking about now. So what we're in right now is problem number one. The first problem, that's the alcohol problem. This is the problem that I have with alcohol. That second one's a mental problem. That's the insanity that the book talks about later. But right now we're talking about this alcohol problem. And it's tricky because what it doesn't look like, for a lot of us, it doesn't seem like a craving is taken over that I can't control. It just seems like I changed my mind. I went out to have 2 drinks. And then after I've had 2 drinks, well, I changed my mind. Now I'm going to have 3 drinks, and I'm going to stay a little longer. And then I have 3 drinks, and I changed my mind. Turns out 3 is not the right amount, so now I'm going to have 4. And it just seems like I keep changing my mind. But then when I look back at my experience, what I can clearly see is I didn't have any control in the first place. And for some of us, for those of you that out there that might be kind of new to this and still trying to kind of grasp what we're talking about here, this may not always happen. It may not, especially in the beginning. Some of us, the first time we drank, we completely lost control. And we never had control any time after that. Some of us started out drinking and had a little control, but lost it over time. But whatever it is, there's a couple of real simple things that make me alcoholic. Number one, once I start drinking, I don't have control over how much I take. And number two, when I finally realize that and I try to quit for good, I'm not able to. I'm not able to stay quit or to stop starting, as a lot of people say. We got plenty of time left. Let's see. We are going to call on Tony's iPad. Go ahead, Tony.
Alcoholic Tony in smoky Sonoma, California tonight. I was taught a while back that Bill Wilson likes to repeat stuff. We call it the principle of repetition. It starts with the forward to the first edition, talking about how we recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, first step. So this paragraph that you just read, we believe and so suggested that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy limited to this class that never occurs in the average drinker, powerless. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all, and having formed the habit, found they cannot break it. Our lives have become unmanageable. So this just occurs over and over and over in the book. And I'm so glad he does it because he sneaks it in. And that's the kind of real simple stuff that I need and I enjoy. So thanks for the meeting tonight. I'm out.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Tony. Good stuff. I got the funniest comment here, and I better answer it here in person. I just want to make sure nobody else thought this. Myers called Jim a rascal. That's not an insult. if there's anyone out there that's not from Texas, don't worry. That's not an insult. It's a term of endearment. The room is full of a bunch of rascals, and we all identify with each other. Okay. Next up is Rose. Uh-oh, I did it again. Hang on, Rose. I lowered your hand. Okay. Okay, Rose. Do we have Rose out there? I hope I didn't mess it up.
All right. Hi, I'm Rose, and I'm an alcoholic. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The one thing that really jumped out at me, I have a significant amount of time, like that gentleman that talked to a few people before. I'm coming up on 30. I have 38 years, and the phenomenon of craving can still kick in mentally, and that's one thing that I like about my sponsor when we, got time. She says you have to be aware that just because the book tells me that this phenomenon of craving happens when alcohol enters my body. Sometimes it doesn't have to enter my body. The mental obsession can still be there. And I attach, if I see a bottle of whatever it is I'm salivating over because I see a billboard, I have to remember and identify that that's my disease kicking in. And if I'm not careful, I pick up alcohol, the phenomenon of craving can really creep in. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Rose. Okay. Next up is Ray. Good. Did you have something else, Ray? Oh, wait. Uh-oh. Hang on. I didn't get you unmuted.
There we go. This you. Yeah. Couple of comments. One to the rascal. As a good observation, Jim. We're gonna get that on page 30, which you alluded to, but it's in that paragraph after you had read it. This book is written specifically for one type of alcoholic and one type of alcoholic only. It includes all types of alcoholics, but it's specific for that chronic alcoholic, or as Bill's going to call it, the real alcoholic. We have all of these other tests and qualifications for alcoholics, but Silkworth actually will expand on it. He said that all of these, regardless, they have one symptom in common. And that one symptom is they can't start drinking without developing this phenomenon of craving. Now, the second comment was in response to I think it was Lynn that you had mentioned this about can't safely use alcohol. I think they're going to address this also on page 30. When they talk about can't safely use, they're going to talk about, well, we'll just drink beer instead. Or maybe we'll actually drink some natural wines. How's that? I mean, I'm not certain. I'm just trying to get reason to what they're saying. But I can tell you from my own experience that when it got to when the Crown bottle would disappear and I would accuse my ex-wife of drinking it, and she would always laugh at me because she doesn't drink. That I thought, well, maybe I better start drinking some of that near beer. Maybe that would be better. Impossible. Anyway, that's all I had. Thanks.
Thanks, Ray. Good stuff. Matthew, I've had a request to call on you, so I'm going to hit you up next here, but I'll give you a second. Yeah, it's you. I see your eyes get big. Chip.
Hi, I'm Chip. I'd just like to expand because I'm going to throw it all out, a little out more out there. Basically understand the disease of alcoholism is a mystical lie, and when we start drinking it, we get a connection to it. And as a mystical lie, it knows nothing but itself, a bunch of lies. That's what a lie is. It's not true. It's not real. It's not there. It's nothing. But it knows one hell of a trick, though. It knows how to play God. And so I'll send you, it's my higher power, but I don't know it. And it talks about I have God confidence in this stuff. I can do anything on this stuff, and it's a social lubricant. And at first, it appears to work because it's working what is us, the truth. And we start relying on it. It's like, wow, this sort of works. And at first, it's a lot of fun as long as we don't wreck cars and or hurt people. It's like, wow, I don't want to do that again. But when we start relying on it to tell us who and what we are, slowly it steals our value. And the further and further away we get away from the truth, the worse it gets. And it's like, oh, hell starts breaking loose, and we wonder what the hell's going on. But we're dependent on it to tell us who and what we are. that we can't live without it. It's like I'm nothing without it, you know. And it's like I got to be somebody, and it's my idiot juice that determines my idiot. But and so you know it relies upon things human. We're relying on something. You know, I think the disease has unreal effects because it's unreal, and God has real effects because He's real. And it talks about that's why the solution has to have depth and weight. What is that? That's the truth, you know. And what's the effect produced by a higher power? I got a higher power that tells me it's all right. If it's not, it doesn't really matter. Nothing matters. And there's the disease mattering a whole lot. Nothing mattering, you know. And it's not true. It's not real. It's not there. But you know, of course, God has the answer for that. It's a very complicated disease, but it's got a simple solution. We just need to switch the higher power to something we can trust, rely, and depend on instead of the lie. Anyway, thanks for sharing.
Thanks, Chip. Okay, Matthew, I'm going to call on you now. Hang on, Matthew. Hang on. There we go.
Got it. Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Berg. I'm an alcoholic. It's good to see you. But I thought I was just going to get away with listening, and because I've enjoyed the comments so much, and I, you know, like everybody has really hit home. I had never heard of this phenomenon of craving until I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, and it started to explain to me things that were happening that I didn't understand, and it really started to cement this idea that I really had this, and there was an explanation for what was going on in my life and why I was lying and meaning it, and then here we go again. And so it's, and then I just really identify, even to this day, I mean, just being able to do simple things like pay my bills, my problems piling up on me. I mean, I so identify with that. It really started to put into terms that were understandable for me that this is something I've got. And so it's really got my attention. And I just really appreciated what people have had to say. And it's really great to be here with y'all. We do a little PPG on Wednesday night here. And it's a little different. It's just a little different. Like, you know, maybe 325 people left. So thanks for having me, Charlie. Really good to see you guys.
Great to see you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate you letting me put you on the spot there. Okay, let's see. We got time for a couple more here. The next one up is Meta. Uh-oh. Having a hard time unmuting you. Hang on. There we go.
It's a little bit later here, I think, than where it is there. Sorry. My name's Meta. I'm an alcoholic. This is the second time I've been to this meeting. I'm a little bit nervous. One, it's big, and two, my sponsor's here. I love the definitions. I am so in love that you guys do the definitions. I got sober early, young. Oh, now I sound vain. I finally got sober at 21, but I had started trying around 17. I am not a functioning alcoholic, and I had a really hard time with a lot of the stuff I heard in the rooms, but especially the phenomenon of craving. And I love, one of the hosts already explained it, but I already had my hand up, but I love that definition. And how it got broken down to me is I would have the first drink and have my own plan, and then the plan would change, and so I would have one more to get there. And then I wasn't there, so I would have one more to get there, and I would have another one because I wasn't there yet, and I would have another to get there, and then suddenly I'm like 8 drinks past there, and here we go again. But next time maybe I'll get there. And it was people taking the time to go through the book with me and kind of explain, like, I don't know where there is. I have a problem being here. So I always kind of want to be there. But that really helped, because to me, that craving was that like vicious, like had to grab a drink kind of thing. So just to have people explain like that mental part of it, and that allergy, that I'm going to go there. Every time I put alcohol in my body, I'm going to end up there. And I don't have a clue where there is. So I'm really liking this meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Good stuff. You know, I think when Mike H from Austin was talking to us about this idea of changing our mind or changing our plan. The point that he made that was so interesting is he said we don't go from the idea of having 2 drinks to having 17. It's a gradual process, and it seems like I'm changing my mind to go, well, no, let's go ahead and have 3. Let's have one more. And what I don't know is that it's kicked off a craving. That's completely out of my control. Steve from Melbourne, we've just got about 2 minutes left. It may take me that long to get you unmuted. Hang on. Okay, there we go.
Thanks, Chad. Cheers, mate. Steve, alcoholic, sober today. Just very briefly, I know you're just about out of time, but I agree wholeheartedly with Charlie when he started in the beginning that this tiny little paragraph is massive, it's huge. And I sort of liken it to where Silkworth said back a couple of pages, his explanation explains many things for which I could not otherwise account. And I found myself, this really resonated with me tonight, or this morning rather, whatever, that I spent so much time lying on the lounge room floor, tipping this bottle of scotch down my throat and looking at it going, why do I drink like this? Why do I drink like this? So it shows me I don't want to be drinking the way I'm drinking. And I'm like he described back here a little bit too, that I think there's something wrong with me. I'm weak-willed, I'm maladjusted to life. There's something wrong with me mentally and emotionally that I can't control my drinking. And when he gave this description of the allergy being a physical thing, it was huge to me. He also talks about here these chronic alcoholics, and I believe the definition of chronic is reoccurring and repeating. So for years and years and years, I'm tipping this stuff down my throat thinking, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stop? Thinking I should have more power to be able to do that. But just to finish off on that, the thing that impacted on me when I could relate to my own experience to what he talked about in this reading, that when I put alcohol into my body and that my physical body craves, meaning it demands more alcohol beyond what my mind tells me, it clicked and it made sense. And what I got out of that, when I first had this explanation put in front of me, I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, it's not my fault. I've got a physical body that compels me to drink against my will, and there's absolutely nothing I can do with it. And to me, like he says, any factor that leaves out this physical, any explanation that leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. It was massive for me to see that. Plus, it also makes me realise what the rest of it's about. The consequences of me going back drinking are horrific, because prior to this, I've still got a mind that believes the lie that I can go back and control it. But that physical reaction is a physical thing and there's nothing I can do about it. Absolutely huge, very, very important. Thanks for allowing me to come up and share.
Thanks for being here, Steve. I heard you guys are on another 7 weeks of lockdown. Hang in there. I want
to wrap it up. If you're new in here and you're hearing this stuff and it's disturbing you a little bit, that's good news. Then you might be onto something. And even if you've maybe been around AA for a little while and you're hearing something new, that's good stuff. There's a lot of bad news coming over the next couple chapters. Lots of bad news, and if you can relate to that, the main thing to understand here is this: if you're the guy he's talking about here, you're not about to get control of your drinking. If you're this guy, I'm not saying you're this guy. We're not saying you've got to determine that on your own. But if you're the guy they're talking about here, what we're saying is you're not about to get a handle on your drinking. So keep coming back and listen to what we're talking about. And if this is interesting you, if it's sparking something, send me an email and we'll get you in contact with somebody that can kind of go into it a little bit deeper based on your experience and their experience.
Chad, and before we close up, I just want to make a quick comment to Rascally Jim. I think they're trying to widen the net enough to make room for guys like Fred. On page 39, because we have varying degrees of unmanageability in our outer lives when we come in here. The thing that we can't manage is that decision to stop drinking. Because Fred, back on page 39, we'll get to him in 10 years. Fred is a guy that's pretty normal in a lot of respects. You know, I mean, I always say that I was a lot like Fred, except for the job and the income and the wife and the children and the likable personality, you know. But nevertheless, he's alcoholic too, because he's got the craving, the knowledge, self-knowledge didn't fix it for him. So it moves us away from this old idea that what makes us alcoholic are DWIs and going to jail and losing jobs. And that's because my first sponsor who's on here tonight, Jim, he never lost his job. He came home and drank every night after work. My story was a lot different from that. But I think that, you know, and I think it's been covered like that. Guys, what a great meeting tonight. It's such an exciting part of the book, and it's wonderful to see my first sponsor on here. I love with all my heart. My current sponsor, Myers. It's just great to see you, brother. This is from page 164 of the big book, as printed in As Bill Sees It on page 331. We realize we know only a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The right answers will come if your own house is in order, but you obviously cannot transmit something you haven't got. See to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and for countless others. This is the great fact for us. For the newcomer, abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. I want to thank you guys for a wonderful meeting. I got a lot out of it. I hope you did. I want to congratulate anybody that's celebrating an anniversary this week or a milestone. And I want to welcome all our visitors here from all over the world. It's just, I so look forward to these Wednesday nights. We have a tradition at this meeting of closing with the 7-step prayer for anybody who'd care to join in. And Ashley's going to put it up on the post. And we like to say that we open all the microphones for the 7-step prayer to remind us what the mind of a newcomer sounds like.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. My creator,
willing for me, bad, power move for me, character, stands in the way of my usefulness, as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen.
Thank you, everybody.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Charlie. God bless y'all.